Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a journey into a world that is so profound, yet completely hidden from the naked eye. We're going to explore the ultimate unit of life, the human cell. But we aren't going to look at it like some boring, standard biology textbook. Actually, scratch that. We're going to explore your body as if it were the most advanced, complex, and flawlessly designed metropolis in the universe. Okay, let's dive right in.
Now, what if I told you about a bustling, fast-paced industrial city, a place packed with hundreds of power stations, chemical plants, and high-speed transport systems? Imagine a city with unbelievable communication networks, a flawless security and defense system, and waste management that meets the absolute highest global standards. What if I told you this city operates 24 hours a day, has absolutely zero pollution, and employs 100 trillion workers? You might think this is some impossible utopian sci-fi concept, right? But it's not. That city? It's you. It is the human body.
So let's move right into part one, the perfect microscopic city. To truly appreciate this flawless administration, we have to first wrap our heads around its sheer scale.
100 trillion. Just let that sink in for a second. That is an absolutely mind-boggling number. Your body is composed of roughly 100 trillion of these cellular cities. But the physical size of this metropolis is so incredibly small that the human eye completely fails to see it. Our brains almost struggle to even imagine it. To get a sweeping bird's-eye view of just one of these cities, you would literally need the immense power of an electron microscope.
On a daily basis, the administration here is, well, it's notoriously strict. It's completely impossible for strangers or foreigners to enter uninvited. Plus, not a single particle exists inside this city that doesn't have a very specific purpose. To meet its daily needs, the city constantly imports raw materials. We're talking things like oils, minerals, salts, acids, meat, water, and air. And here is the really brilliant part. Any waste generated from these imports is immediately exported out of the city limits. Because of this flawless, immediate waste removal, the question of environmental pollution simply doesn't even exist here. No pollution whatsoever.
And the inhabitants of these cities are incredibly diverse because cells are the fundamental building blocks of all life. Whether it's the soft grass on your lawn, a giant whale in the ocean, or you and me, every single form of life exists because of them. On one extreme, the single largest cell in the biological world is actually an ostrich egg. Pretty crazy, right? On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, the smallest cells are so unimaginably tiny that if you gathered 1 million of them together, they would barely cover the head of a pin. Every thought you have, every blink of your eye, it all relies on these specific, perfectly sized workers.
Let's transition from the macro view of the entire city and zoom all the way in. Part 2, Citizens of the Retina.
Imagine for a second if one of these cells could actually speak directly to you. It might say something like, I belong to a family of 130 million rod-shaped cells in the retina of your left eye. Alongside a neighboring community of 7 million cone-shaped cells, this massive family is entirely responsible for your ability to see the world. Without them, you couldn't even dream.
So how exactly do they do their job? Well, the primary job of these rod cells is to capture dim and low light. To do this, a single cell uses an astonishing 30 million light-catching pigment molecules, 30 million in one cell. Once the light is captured, the cell uses a highly complex biochemical process to transform that light into a specific electrochemical signal. Finally, it dispatches that signal instantly to the optic nerve. When your brain receives enough of these signals, it pieces them all together like a giant puzzle, and boom, you experience vision. And all of that? It happens in a fraction of a millisecond.
But doing all of this complex biochemical processing requires massive amounts of energy, which brings us to part 3, power plants and ATP.
1,000. To meet their unbelievable energy demands, almost every single cell contains around 1,000 dedicated power plants working day and night. These tiny, extraordinary power stations are called mitochondria. I mean, just imagine 1,000 power plants operating inside a space way smaller than the head of a pin. It's mind-blowing.
So these mitochondria use the sugar present in your blood as their primary fuel. And just like any real-world power plant, they have a byproduct. But here, the only waste left behind is water and carbon dioxide. During this whole chemical process, these power plants manufacture a very specific, absolutely crucial compound called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP for short. You can think of ATP as basically the international currency of biological energy. Whenever your body needs energy, to beat your heart, to expand your lungs for a breath, or even just to blink, it literally pays for it using ATP.
Now,
The really crucial point here is that this energy supply must be absolutely continuous. A lot of us are probably familiar with the whole concept of load shedding, those rolling power blackouts when the grid just can't keep up with demand. But in the cellular city, load shedding means only two things: severe disability or death. A continuous, completely uninterrupted supply of energy is entirely non-negotiable for life.
So, you might be wondering, what happens when you finally lie down and go to sleep? Does the city shut down? Part 4. The Unstoppable Night Shift. While you are fast asleep and dreaming, your body's tireless workers are actually pulling the ultimate night shift. The cells don't clock out. Instead, they pivot to performing a full systemic overhaul and service of your entire bodily machinery. It's the whole reason you wake up feeling refreshed. Throughout your deepest sleep, the cellular power plants keep firing to ensure your body temperature is strictly regulated, your nervous system remains perfectly active, and your heart just keeps right on beating. These tireless workers actually started this job before you were even born, and they will not stop for a single second for as long as you live. All right, now for all these power plants to keep running and for all these cells to stay alive, they need constant supplies. This brings us to our final system. Part 5, the ultimate transport network. Enter the red blood cell. What's really fascinating about these guys is that they are a rare exception in the city. They actually do not have their own mitochondria power plants. Why? Because they don't manufacture anything at all. Their sole purpose in the body is to remain in constant motion through your arteries and veins. They are the dedicated transport vehicles, basically the delivery trucks of your bloodstream, ensuring that every single corner of the city gets exactly what it needs. And man, do they have quite the commute. 75,000 miles. That is the staggering distance these red blood cells travel. They're on this endless, high-speed journey to ensure the delivery of critical supplies never ever stops.
To truly appreciate the sheer scale of the logistics here, let's look at this comparison. Human logistics networks on Earth really struggle to supply food and resources to our population of a few billion people. But inside your blood vessels, the red blood cells are actively supplying 60 trillion hungry cellular consumers. That is a consumer base 80,000 times larger than the entire human population of Earth. No supply chain in the history of the world could ever even come close to rivaling the efficiency of your own bloodstream.
And they do it with jaw-dropping speed, too. Every single red blood cell completes a full round trip of the body in just a 90-second sprint. During the first 45 seconds of this sprint, they're rushing to deliver highly coveted oxygen to the waiting cells. Then, in the second 45-second slice, the return journey, they rapidly sweep up all the used-up waste, the carbon dioxide, clearing it out before it can become toxic. So where does all that waste actually go? The red blood cells rush it straight to the body's primary waste disposal and filtration sites: the heart, the lungs, the liver, and the kidneys. Right there, the carbon dioxide is expelled, the blood is cleaned, fresh oxygen is loaded back up, and that frantic 90-second sprint instantly begins all over again. Which brings us to our final thought. The next time you simply blink your eyes, take a deep breath, or drift off to sleep, just take a moment to realize what is happening inside you. Will you remember to thank the trillions of tireless workers, the thousands of microscopic power plants, and the endless fleets of delivery vehicles keeping the metropolis of your body alive? The sheer complexity of the human cell isn't just biology. It is an absolute marvel of engineering. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll see you on the next one.